Hello, my friend. This is Clyde. What do you have to say? In Isaiah 40, verse 12, we read, Who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand, measured heaven with a span, and calculated the dust of the earth in a measure, weighed the mountains in scales and the hills in a balance? Today we're going to have an important discussion that will bring you to an unexpected conclusion. This will be one to shake you up and bring you to your senses. The text is just a few lines in a bigger piece of fine literature of solid truth. But in looking at the text, we're looking at a single piece of writing that is an exact representation of the larger poem. This text asks you a tough question, and not because you can't find the answer. Rather, the text brings you to a place where you cannot deny the absolute and irrefutable answer to the question that is asked. The writer uses geographical details of the earth to raise a question. Who is responsible for this place we call planet Earth? We live here, we benefit from it, but let us step outside and reason together. Let us look at the waters, let us look to the sky, let us look on the ground beneath your feet, and let us look across to the hills or the mountains. Waters. You might know how many oceans there are on the planet. You might know the names of great rivers. You might be able to speak about the most breathtaking and majestic waterfalls. You might know these things. For many of us, we don't know the answers to some features of Earth, but stop and think about it. How much gallons of water is on the Earth? That is a very ridiculous question. Okay. What is the deepest part of the biggest ocean on the earth? Or what is the total space that one of the world's greatest oceans take up? Who has measured the waters, all the waters, the oceans, the rivers, the lakes, the streams, the ponds? Is there someone who has the answer? The question before us is this: who has measured the waters in the hollow of his hand? One hand, not two. Simple. God, the God of whom we read in Genesis 1, who simply spoke and seas appeared, rivers started flowing, and there was water in all the right places. God made it all out of nothing, and he is so big that he is able to hold all the water in one hand. Think about that. Now let us look up. I don't carry around in my head the measurements that they tell us in science classes, but man has attempted to measure the distance from Earth to the various planets and other objects in the sky, but we have never been able to find the end of the skies. Is the sky like a flat surface with edges and corners, beginnings and ends? We don't know because we are not able to figure out these things. I visited a natural science museum last year, and after a while I had to stop reading. The distance between Earth and the farthest planets and all those things, they were just blowing my mind. But the writer of the text says something crazy. He suggests that there is someone, one person, who uses his hand to measure the sky. That is crazy. That is not possible. But my friend, it is, because God did not create something bigger than himself. I said created because the truth is right there at the front of the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He created all that we call skies out of nothing. Who has held the dust of the earth in a basket? What? Whatever the answer is, the writer sounds as if he is crazy because he dares to ask me to consider all the dirt, the soil, that tangible thing that we call the ground, and to tell him who collects all of this in a basket? Is there such a person? Then that person must be massive, he must be large, he must be powerful, because the ground beneath us provides stability for high-rise buildings, for aircrafts to land safely on solid runways. But the ground doesn't crumble beneath those heavy things. I have long since run out of imagination because it is unfathomable. The writer has a sense to suggest that if there is a God, then he sees the ground, the deserts, the land, everything as dust, and he puts it all in a basket. Finally, he asks the high-level question, no pun intended. He invites you to look at the mountains or the hills near you. Is there someone who weighs these parts of the earth? We depend on the stability of mountains. Think of the most recent Winter Olympics and how they were able to identify mountainous regions to safely stage some events that requires heights, slopes, and strong mountainous surfaces. And all that goes to make those skiing events possible. We did not see the earth crumbling under those skiers or those instruments that were flying from one end to the next. We marvel at the grandeur of the majestic mountains and the towering hills that we see regularly. And the writer asks us this crazy question: who weighs all the mountains and hills on a scale? That's what I say too. It makes no sense. But it does make sense, because the answer is right there in front of you. This great God, this eternal God, this God who we ignore and disregard over and over again and seek to discard him, this mighty God is responsible for this planet we call home. He is the one who made it all, and he sustains it. The skies have never come crashing down. We have never seen the oceans disappear because they have no water, and we have never seen mountains fall apart. That is because there is a God. There is a God who made it all. He made it for his good pleasure. And because we know that God exists, it is only right that we worship him. Yes, it makes sense for us to simply acknowledge that each of us is just a speck. And so we bow our hearts and say, God, I honor you today. You who made it all, I honor you.